Okay, let's unpack this. Picture that moment when maybe a little unexpected money hits your account.
Mhm.
Does your brain immediately jump to that impulse buy that, treat yourself dinner?
Or does that little voice kick in, the
Yeah,
one whispering about longer-term goals?
exactly. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it, how people who actually achieve lasting financial freedom handle those same urges. What
Mhm.
does their overall money mindset look like?
It's a really great question to start with, and it leads us right into what we're digging into today.
Yeah.
We're doing a deep dive based on an article, Was reiche Menschen anders machen und was du davon lernen kannst. Basically, what rich people do differently and what you can learn from it.
Okay.
And this isn't really about like lottery wins or sudden inheritances. It's more about understanding the principles, the kind of long-term thinking that often underpins real financial independence.
Right, the repeatable stuff. So for you listening, our mission here is to pull out those key insights from the article. We want to pinpoint those differences in how wealthy people approach money, risk, time, effort.
Think of it as a shortcut, maybe, a way to grasp these core ideas and perhaps see how they might apply to your own situation.
Exactly. Ready to jump in?
Absolutely. So, the first big difference the article really hammers home is this idea of prioritizing assets over consumption.
Ah, yes. This really stood out. Instead of, what shiny new thing can I buy?
Hmm.
The thought process seems to flip immediately to, how can this money grow? How can it work for me later?
That's it. A real pivot. They consciously focus on acquiring things that can potentially generate income or increase in value.
Okay, like what specifically?
Well, the article gives examples. Stocks, ETFs, those exchange-traded funds you hear about.
Right, the baskets of investments.
Exactly. Also, real estate, owning parts of businesses, even digital things like websites or intellectual property. And interestingly, they also frame education and networking as assets.
That makes so much sense. Investing in skills, building connections, those definitely pay off long term. And it's such a stark contrast to the maybe more common urge for consumer goods.
Definitely. You know, the new car that loses value instantly, the bigger apartment with bigger bills, the constant upgrade cycle.
Yeah.
And the article points out this difference between looking rich, spending a lot, and actually building wealth.
That's a crucial distinction.
You can spend loads and seem affluent, sure, but true financial strength, the article argues, is in those underlying assets, the things that provide security, potential income, regardless of your day-to-day spending.
So maybe a quick check-in for you listening. Think about your recent spending. Was it mostly adding to the asset side of the ledger or more towards consumption? It's a useful filter.
It really is. And this focus on assets, it naturally flows into the second key difference,
Yeah.
long-term thinking.
Oh yeah, patience. The article definitely paints wealth building as a marathon, not a sprint at all.
Right. We're talking years, even decades, a very different time scale than, say, next month's paycheck.
And the article gives examples.
It does. Like the investor who's prepared to wait maybe 10 years for an investment to really mature rather than just grabbing quick, small profits.
Or the entrepreneur.
Yeah, or the entrepreneur who plows profits back into the business for future growth, delaying that big payout or fancy purchase.
And having that long view, it lets you be more strategic, maybe less emotional about decisions.
Absolutely. If you're playing the long game, those inevitable market dips don't feel like a catastrophe.
If we don't panic so.
Exactly. The article suggests people with this outlook might even see downturns as buying opportunities, a totally different way to react compared to fear.
So thinking about your own goals, your financial aims, do your current actions lean short-term or long-term? Definitely something to chew on.
Ugh.
Okay, let's talk risk. That's another area that the article flagged as different.
Yes, the relationship with risk. It's natural for many people to want to avoid risk. That fear of loss is powerful.
Sure.
But the article suggests that wealthy individuals tend to see risk differently. They assess it, calculate it, and sort of accept it as part of the wealth-building journey.
But crucially, it's informed risk,
Yeah,
not just like reckless gambling.
precisely. Not blind leaps. The article uses an example. Investing, say, 50,000 euro in a startup.
Okay.
But the person doing this likely understands the business, the market. They've probably diversified elsewhere. They might even have a plan B if it goes south.
Right, it's considered. It's not like throwing everything into the latest crypto craze based on hype.
Exactly. That's the difference the article highlights: calculation versus speculation or fear.
So for you listening, how do you personally approach risk in finance? Is it analytical, understanding the potential upsides and downsides? Or is it more driven by gut feeling or just avoiding anything uncertain?
A really important self-assessment. And this idea of calculated risk ties into the next point, understanding the value of time and, crucially, leverage.
Ah, leverage. This is fascinating. The article argues that wealthy individuals generally don't just trade time directly for money, hour for dollar. They focus on scaling.
That's the key word, scaling. How do they do it? The article mentions a few ways.
Like?
Building businesses, using teams, so output isn't limited to their own hours, investing capital, so money makes money through interest, dividends, rent.
Passive income streams, basically.
Right. Or creating digital products, online courses, software things that can reach many people without direct minute-by-minute involvement, and automation, using systems or tech for repetitive stuff.
It seems to boil down to that core question the article raises. How can I build a system that works even when I'm not actively working?
That's a powerful reframe, isn't it? It's so different from the standard time for money exchange, which has that built-in ceiling on earnings and freedom.
Definitely. So where in your own life, maybe professionally or personally, could you potentially leverage your time or skills better? Build systems, delegate, explore scalable options. Lots to think about there. Okay, what about learning?
Continuous learning. According to the article, this is absolutely fundamental. Financial education isn't a one-and-done thing. It's lifelong.
They're always seeking knowledge, it seems. Books, podcasts like this, deep dive, seminars.
And crucially, networking. Learning from other successful people, it's an active, ongoing investment in themselves.
Yeah, and the mindset behind it is key, right? That idea of what I learned today could pay off for the next 10 years.
Exactly. That long-term view again, but applied to knowledge. It's the opposite of thinking learning stops when school finishes. The article really pushes this continuous growth idea.
So for you, maybe think about one small action today. Could you read an article, listen to a relevant segment, find one new resource? Just kickstart that learning momentum.
Great suggestion. And that proactive stance doesn't stop at learning. It extends to actively managing their environment, too.
Right. This is interesting. The idea that your surroundings, the people you associate with, heavily influence your financial path and even your mindset.
They seem to make a conscious effort to connect with people who are, ambitious, solution-focused, growth-oriented. They get that who you spend time with rubs off on you.
The article had that quote, didn't it? Something like, you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
That's the one. It really makes you pause and think about your own circle, doesn't it?
It does. And the article suggests many people kind of underestimate this environmental influence groupthink, maybe envy or just inertia. Wealthy individuals seem more deliberate about crafting supportive networks.
Intentionality. So maybe reflect on your own network. Does it generally support your financial goals, encourage growth, or does it maybe hold you back sometimes? It's a critical, if sometimes uncomfortable, question.
Definitely. Okay, and the final major point seemed to be about having a clear strategy.
Absolutely. The article is clear. There's no single magic recipe. But having a plan, a strategy, is almost universal among those who build sustainable wealth. They don't just drift.
And what does that strategy typically involve, according to the article?
Usually a few key parts. First, defining clear goals, like I want to reach X net worth by Y age.
Okay, specific targets.
Then outlining the path. How will you get there? Specific investment approaches, starting a business, increasing savings drastically. And finally, identifying the tools. What will you use? Certain investment types like ETFs, tax optimization, maybe even just disciplined time management.
And the article had a strong line about discipline.
Ah, yes. Discipline beats intelligence. That consistency, sticking to the plan, is often more powerful than chasing every new shiny object or relying on flashes of brilliance.
Makes sense. So the question for you listening is, do you have a financial strategy, even a basic one?
Yeah.
And if not, what's one small step you could take this week to start outlining it? Just getting something down on paper can be huge.
It really can. And that leads us nicely to the overall takeaway message from the article, which I think is quite empowering.
Which is?
That building wealth isn't necessarily about starting rich. Many of these principles, the focus on assets, long-term thinking, calculated risk, leverage, learning, environment, strategy, they're learnable. They're applicable wherever you're starting from.
Right. It shifts the focus away from quick fixes or just appearing wealthy towards building something solid, sustainable through smart thinking and consistent action.
And the article leaves us with that really potent final question to mull over. It's not primarily how much do I earn, how do I think about and act with the money I do have?
That really reframes everything, doesn't it? So the final thought for you from this deep dive, reflect on these principles. Which one or two really struck a chord? Think about how you could start even in a small way to integrate them into your own approach to money. Understanding these differences in thinking and action, that's genuinely the first step toward potentially changing your financial trajectory.